The city of Tokyo pulsed under a shroud of neon and shadow, its arteries clogged with the hum of late-night crowds and the flicker of digital billboards. In a nondescript building on the city's edge, a room glowed faintly, its walls lined with shelves of plastic figures, dominoes, and intricate mechanical toys. Near sat cross-legged on the floor, his white hair catching the dim light of a single monitor, his fingers weaving through a pile of colorful blocks. The air smelled of polished plastic and old paper, a sterile contrast to the chaos unfolding beyond his sanctuary. Outside, the city bled. 3 murders in as many weeks, each marked by a grotesque tableau. Victims arranged in eerie symmetry, their bodies splayed like broken dolls, a single playing card tucked into their folded hands. The cards bore no numbers, only a scrawled symbol, a jagged spiral that seemed to writhe under scrutiny. The police were baffled, their reports piling up like leaves in a storm, but Nir's mind churned with a different rhythm. He twirled a lock of hair, his pale eyes scanning a miniature model on the floor, a replica of the latest crime scene, built from toy bricks and wire. Every detail was precise. The angle of the victim's arm, the placement of the card, the faint scratches on the pavement suggesting a struggle that wasn't. His thoughts drifted to Wamy's house, the orphanage that had forged him in L's shadow. The spiral symbol tugged at a memory he couldn't grasp, like a word on the tip of his tongue. He reached for a toy robot, its gears clicking as he adjusted its joints, mimicking the victim's pose. The motion steadied him, grounding his spiraling thoughts. The killer wasn't random, their precision screamed intent, a challenge meant for someone with the intellect to see it. Nir's fingers paused, hovering over a domino. The killer knew him, or knew of him. The thought sent a shiver through his frame. Not of fear, but of recognition. A game had begun. The monitor flickered, displaying a grainy feed from a crime scene camera. The latest victim, a middle-aged banker, lay in an alley, his suit pristine save for the blood pooling beneath him. The spiral card rested on his chest, its edges curling as if burned. Nir's eyes narrowed, his mind slicing through the image like a scalpel. The card's placement was deliberate, angled toward a nearby streetlight, as if inviting scrutiny. He leaned forward, his breath stirring a pile of paper cranes, and began assembling another model. The toys weren't just tools, they were his language, translating chaos into order. Each click of plastic was a step closer to the truth. As he worked, a shadow loomed in his memory. Wamy's house, its sterile halls, the whispers of experiments beyond L's training. The killer's methods felt too familiar, like a distorted echo of that place. Nir's fingers tightened around a toy car, its wheels spinning silently. He didn't believe in coincidence. The spiral, the cards, the precision, it all pointed to a past he'd buried, or one that had been buried for him. He set the car down, aligning it with the model's alley, and began to calculate. The killer was out there, weaving a web of blood and symbols, and Nir's toys were the only key to unraveling it. The city became Nir's chessboard, its streets and shadows mapped in his mind through the lens of his toys. His investigation room transformed into a labyrinth of constructs, miniature buildings crafted from blocks, crime scenes sculpted in clay, and mechanical contraptions that whirred with purpose. Each morning, he sifted through police reports delivered by Watari, now aged but still sharp, his presence a quiet anchor in the storm of Nir's thoughts. The reports detailed a 4th murder, then a 5th, each more audacious, the spiral cards growing bolder in their placement, one pinned to a victim's eye, another half buried in concrete. Nir's focus sharpened, his toys evolving with each clue. He built a scale model of Tokyo's underbelly, its alleys and warehouses recreated in plastic and wire. The killer's pattern emerged in the angles of his constructs. The murders formed a spiral across the city, converging on a point yet to be struck. He twirled a lock of hair, his mind racing. The spiral wasn't just a signature. It was a map, a taunt, a message encoded in blood. He began to suspect a supernatural element, a faint distortion in the crime scene photos that didn't align with physics. a shimmer around the cards like heat rising from pavement. His thoughts turned to a new figure in the investigation, a young detective named Hana Mori, assigned to liaise with Nia's secretive operation. Her presence was a complication, her footsteps heavy in the room as she delivered evidence bags filled with bloodied cards. Nia observed her through a curtain of white hair, noting the tension in her posture, the way her eyes lingered on his toys with a mix of awe and unease. She didn't understand his methods, but she didn't need to. Her role was to bridge the gap between Nia's world and the police's, her reports feeding his models with fresh data. As the murders escalated, Nia's toys became more complex. He crafted a mechanical diorama, its gears mimicking the killer's movements, precise, relentless, almost inhuman. The shimmer in the photos gnawed at him, reminiscent of stories he'd dismissed as fiction. Artifacts that bent reality, tools of power beyond human control. He recalled a rumor from Wamy's house, a whispered tale of an experiment gone wrong, a child trained like Elle but twisted by something darker. The killer's profile began to form in his mind. A Wamy's reject, wielding an artifact that cloaked their identity, erasing traces from cameras and witnesses. Nia's investigation led him beyond his room, into the city's veins. He moved like a ghost, his slight frame cloaked in white, his toys concealed in a satchel. At each crime scene, he reconstructed the killer's steps, his fingers tracing the air where blood had spilled. The sixth murder, in a derelict subway tunnel, confirmed his suspicions. The spiral card glowed faintly, its edges pulsing with an energy that made his skin prickle. He collected it, his gloved hands steady, and returned to his room to build a new model, a glowing card at its center, surrounded by toy figures frozen in a dance of death. The artifact's presence shifted the game. Nia's mind churned, connecting the killer's methods to a forgotten Wamy's house project, a device rumored to manipulate perception, tested on orphans who never emerged. He began to suspect the killer was one such orphan, their mind fractured by the artifact's power, their murders a warped rebellion against Elle's legacy. Nia's toys became his countermeasure, their precision cutting through the artifact's haze. He built a trap, a mechanical puzzle box designed to disrupt the artifact's energy, its gears calibrated to resonate with the spiral's frequency. Hana Mori's role grew, her reports detailing the killer's audacity. A seventh victim in a crowded plaza, the card pinned to their chest in broad daylight. Nia watched her from behind his models, noting the strain in her movements, the way her hands trembled as she handed him evidence. She was a variable he hadn't accounted for, her determination clashing with her fear. He began to incorporate her into his calculations, her presence a mirror to his own isolation. His toys reflected this shift, a new figure added to his diorama, a woman with dark hair standing at the edge of the spiral. The city's pulse quickened as the killer's spiral tightened, the murders converging on an abandoned warehouse in Tokyo's industrial district. Nia's models predicted the final strike, his toys mapping the killer's path with chilling accuracy. He spent nights assembling a final construct, a sprawling replica of the warehouse, its walls lined with tiny mirrors to reflect the artifact's energy. The killer's motives crystallized in his mind. They sought to erase Elle's legacy by targeting Nia, the last remnant of Wamy's house, their artifact a tool to rewrite reality itself. Nia ventured into the city, his satchel heavy with toys. The warehouse loomed, its rusted walls exhaling decay. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of oil and blood, the spiral card glowing at the center of a makeshift altar. The killer was there, a shadow in a tattered coat, their face obscured by the artifact's shimmer. Nia's heart remained steady, his mind a fortress of logic. He deployed his trap, the puzzle box humming as it disrupted the artifact's field. The killer faltered, their form solidifying. A young man with hollow eyes, a Wamy's house scar on his wrist. The confrontation unfolded in silence, a chess match of intellect and instinct. Nia's toys became weapons, their gears jamming the artifact's power, their mirrors reflecting the killer's own distorted memories. The warehouse became a battlefield of constructs, plastic and metal clashing with supernatural force. Nia's mind raced, piecing together the killer's past. A child named K, trained to rival L but broken by the artifact's experiments, now seeking vengeance through murder. The spiral was his signature, a cry against the system that discarded him. As the trap closed, Nia's toys overwhelmed the artifact, its glow fading. The killer collapsed, their memories flooding back. Pain, betrayal, a childhood stolen. Nia stood over them, his pale eyes unreadable, his toys scattered like fallen soldiers. Hana arrived, her flashlight cutting through the darkness, her breath catching at the sight of the subdued killer. Nia's thoughts turned inward, the weight of Wamy's house pressing against his chest. The artifact, now inert, lay among his toys, a relic of a past he could no longer ignore. The warehouse was silent, its shadows retreating as dawn crept through cracked windows. Nia sat among his toys, the puzzle box cradled in his lap, its gears still warm. The killer, K, was gone, taken by the police under Hana's supervision. The artifact rested in a sealed case, its power dormant but not destroyed. Nia's mind lingered on the spiral, its shape etched into his thoughts like a scar. The murders had stopped, but the secret they uncovered, a Wamy's house experiment that birthed monsters, clung to him like damp air. He returned to his investigation room, the city's pulse fading behind him. The shelves of toys seemed heavier now, their plastic faces staring as if they knew the cost of his victory. He rebuilt the warehouse model, its mirrors reflecting his own pale features. The artifact had been a tool of erasure, masking K's existence, but it had also forced Nia to confront his own isolation. He thought of L, of Mello, of the orphans who never escaped Wamy's shadow. His fingers traced a domino, its edge worn from years of use. Hana's report ceased, her role complete, but Nia saw in his mind's eye a figure caught between duty and doubt, much like himself. He wondered if she'd carry the case's weight, or if she'd forget, as most did. The artifact's origins remained a mystery, its creators buried in Wamy's past, but Nia knew the truth would surface again, like a card left in blood. He arranged his toys in a new pattern, a spiral of his own, preparing for the next game. The city moved on, its neon heart beating without pause. Nia sat alone, his toys his only companions, their clicks and whirs a language only he spoke. The killer's defeat was a victory, but not a resolution. Wamy's house had left too many ghosts, and Nia was one of them. He twirled a lock of hair, his eyes fixed on a toy robot, its joints frozen in mid-motion. The spiral was gone, but its echo remained, a reminder that some secrets could only be held, never solved.